Two brands can sell the exact same type of product online, black leggings. For brand A, $68 feels like a stretch. For brand B, $98 feels like the right amount of money to spend. What's the difference? Why are you having your gut reaction tell you that one is overpriced and one is justly priced? It comes down to the way that your mind perceives the full package. Ultimately, that difference is not random. It does not just come down to the fabric composition. It doesn't come down to the type of print used. It doesn't come down to a lot of those technical details that we like to rave about. What it comes down to is judgment. And the judgment on whether a product is worth it or not happens way earlier than when a customer actually gets their hands on the product. They are making judgment calls about the product the second that they see it. So this episode is covering that exact moment, that exact judgment call, and what are the things that you need to take into account in order to push that judgment call into the direction of worth it versus not worth it. So without further ado, my name is Shadi Adada. I'm the co-founder and creative director of FittDesign. And over the last 10 years, I've helped thousands of sportswear brands go from an idea to a physical product. And I've learned a thing or two about what it takes, not only to technically design a great high quality product, but also what are the things that we need to consider so that the judgment call errs on the side of worth it versus not. So number one is that customers ultimately do not judge price first. They judge risk. Risk comes down to value versus reward. What I'm going to pay for, am I going to get the applicable value out of that? And this is a judgment call that we are all making in our day-to-day lives. When someone is unwilling to spend the money, it comes down to the fact that they do not feel that they're going to extract the value that is being promised them out of the end product. So this is where it comes down to diminishing risk and maximizing value. So what customers are asking themselves is ultimately, is the product going to perform as advertised? Is the product going to fit the way that I think it's going to fit? Is this product going to hold up over time? Am I going to get many wears out of it? Is this product going to look like what it looks like in the photos? And is this brand safe enough for me to spend my money on? When you account for all of those risk factors and you diminish the risk threshold, this is where customers justify taking that step. The higher the price, the more risk associated because the higher the buy-in, which means that your website, your product, your full threshold needs to account for that. Number two is that shape and silhouette is usually the first value signal because we are understanding that customers trust a price before they make that purchase. And in the world of D2C, where you're selling online, customers aren't in store where they're able to touch the product, to feel the waistband, to look at the details in person. So they're judging shape. If you're looking at a legging, for example, if the silhouette looks super clean, it fits well on the waist, it fits well on the hips, it's avoiding wrinkling in awkward places like in the crotch, the knees, the ankle. This is where customers begin to say that this is a product that performs as intended. But even if your own imagery cannot convey that perfect fit, that's where risk comes into play, which means that the pricing threshold is diminished. They no longer feel that it is worth it to pay that high price because it seems too much for the risk that they're taking on. Now, compared to a legging that has a weird rise, perhaps it hits the wrong position, too high or too low, or a waistband that looks ultimately way too thin, or it has threads that are poking out, or seam construction that is poking out, or ultimately proportions on a product that feel off and non-flattering. A customer may not know exactly what it is because they lack that level of sophistication, but it's that feeling that something is off that is going to put them off making that purchase. Number three is that fabric appearance matters just as much, or if not more than fabric quality, because in an online setting, customers are not going to be able to touch and feel the fabric that you've specified. And if your fabric doesn't look like what you're advertising it looks like, regardless of all the functional details that you're outlining, people aren't even going to get to the position to experience those details. There's no point in saying something is wrinkle proof and something is silver thread lined, making it anti-odor and it's super moisture wicking if the product looks too thin and the fabric is see-through, or you have pilling that's happening on the fabric itself. All of that negates a customer's trust, and they'll never actually get to the position where they get to enjoy the moisture wicking aspect of the product. So you need to look at what is immediately available to them, and that's going to be with the eyes, not with the senses, not with the hands, not with touch and feel, because they'll never get to that position in the first place. So what customers are looking for is whether the garment or the fabric looks matte or shiny. In specific situations, they may be looking for it to be matte, or they may be looking for it to be shiny. This is where function comes into play. Next, they may be looking to see if a fabric is dense or if it looks flimsy. If they see an abundance of wrinkle lines in the wrong place, or they see the imperfections of the skin coming through the fabric, this gives them the sense that it's flimsy. They're going to look at if the fabric or the actual surface feels rich or if it feels plasticky, if they can see the spandex yarns coming through. They're going to look at if the stretch of the garment, especially on a compression garment, feels structured or if it feels weak. If you start to see the fabric or the yarns come through the actual threads, or if the actual skin starts showing through as the garment is stretched. They're going to look at if the colors feel deep, consistent, uniform, or if they feel random, they feel faded, and they feel inconsistent. Next up is that details are where price either gets confirmed or price gets destroyed. Details come across in images. Details come across when customers are looking at a product and evaluating. So details in terms of the waistband construction, the way that the waistband connects to the main body fabric, the bulkiness of that construction line, the types of zippers used, the edge stitching on the zippers, the logo application, the trim consistency across different products, how it's stitched down, the hem placement, the label placement, if it's in a weird position. All of those things really outline to customers if something's wrong. I'll use the most basic example. If you were to look at a high-end garment, let's just say something like a Loro Piana garment, and what you noticed was that the tag that's on the inside of the neckline was miscentered. No matter how high quality the fabric was, no matter how high quality the marketing was, no matter how high quality the actual tag was, you might ask yourself, for a garment that's priced at $1,000+, why couldn't they take the time to center it? It seems like such an insignificant detail that no one will ever see, but since the threshold for the buy-in is so high, your demand to reduce that risk, to make that risk non-negligible, is also very high. This is where you need to focus on the details. Next up is that consistency makes a product feel more expensive. I use this example on my calls with clients all the time. You know and trust a brand based on brand placement. If you close your eyes and you imagine a Lululemon legging, you will know immediately where the logo is placed. It's either going to be placed on the center back of the waistband, or it's going to be placed on the left calf around 11 inches above the opening. How did I know that? Well, ultimately, it just comes down to consistency. Across the years, Lulu has been consistent with the placement of their logos on their garments, even down to the size. It's that consistency in trim language, color tone, fit logic, visual identity, trim placement, consistency between how garments are fitted. All of that stuff comes down to the trust that a customer has. When you go to a brand that you trust, you don't need to try on every single iteration of that product, because you know that this is a brand that has dotted their I's and crossed their X's. So they've already done their due diligence to make sure that a white t-shirt of a specific style fits like a black t-shirt of a specific style, and that the dyeing logic or the dyed fabric hasn't affected the fit fundamentally. These are things that an amateur brand would fail to approve. They may go into production, and something as simple as the same product in different colors will fit differently because they haven't been able to foresee that, oh, if I'm using a richer dye, then this yarn will get affected and ultimately it will shrink down and it may fit differently. So they wouldn't have accounted for that upfront. It's those inconsistencies that kill trust and that kill value with the customers. Next up is that styling and context ultimately shape price perception super fast. This is where how a garment is portrayed on social media and how it's portrayed on the website and how it's portrayed on your different channels comes into play. People are immediately noticing what kind of model is wearing the garment. If you're trying to go for a grungy aesthetic and you have a very clean-cut model that looks extremely preppy, there's a disconnect there, and vice versa. They're looking at how the product fits on the body. If you're all about a nice, relaxed, loungy fit, but you're getting weird wrinkling and weird bunching up in different parts of the garment, there's also something off about that. They're looking at whether the styling makes sense. They're looking at whether the campaign makes sense, the location of the model, what garment they're wearing, and where they're wearing it. They're ultimately looking at if this is a part of a lifestyle that they want to be a part of, or if it doesn't make sense. The biggest brands in the world run on aspiration. The brands that transcend basic value pricing are aspirational. If you think of the average Lulu customer, and I use this context a lot because in sportswear, they are pretty much on the more premium end. So one can ask, how can they justify charging 2, 3, 4x their customers? Because beyond just the actual technical materials, the great design, the great fit, the aspirational lifestyle that they put out of the type of customer that can afford a Lulu product makes it worth it for those who can afford, and even for those who want to buy into that aspiration, because aspiration is always a sense of, this is where I am, and I'm always reaching out for something just out of my reach to get me to the next level. So this is extremely powerful for those who have arrived and made it, and for those who may want to make it. And last but not least is ultimately a product feels worth the price when the brand promise is clear and consistent. A product will feel way more premium if a customer can quickly understand what it is and what it promises. Not in vague, indirect language, but in clear, concise language. So for example, you might say something like, this is a clean, sculpted, everyday legging designed to help you look and feel your best in and out of the gym. That promise is clear and it's easy. Or you might say something like, this is an oversized pump cover that has a stronger shoulder line and a more structured fabric to accentuate your physique and to make you look broader than you actually are. Those specifics, by showing the feature on the garment and its intended final use or its final effect, is the brand promise. So it's important in your promises that you're clear on the thing that's making the promise, what the intended result is, and how you're bridging the thing to the result. So the pathway that gets you there in a simple and straightforward line. So when a product feels like it's worth the price, comes down to way before a customer has even purchased. It doesn't come just down to the branding. It doesn't come down to the fabric quality. It doesn't come down to the photography. It comes down to all of these signals working together consistently. The shape, the surface, the presentation, the proof, the clarity of the promise. All of those things stack in your favor, and the higher your price, the more that you need to stack in your favor. This is why luxury brands spend millions and millions of dollars on what? They spend it on marketing, they spend it on positioning, they spend it to tell the narrative, to structure the narrative that their product is worth it. So the work starts with the product quality, but ultimately it ends with the positioning. But if you don't have a product quality that matches your positioning, well, that's a story for another day. And I've done another episode in the past that has covered what are the lowest hanging fruits that you can go after to create a great quality product, because quality product, bear in mind, is essential and fundamental. If you guys enjoyed this episode, consider smashing a massive thumbs up. And also, if you want to work with me and my team one-on-one to design and develop and take your idea and to bring it to the next level, to have a physical sample in your hands in under 30 days, then you can check the link in the description to apply to work with us one-on-one. And literally within 10 minutes, you have a personalized production roadmap and a clear path on how we can go from an idea to a physical product in under 30 days. If you guys enjoyed this episode, click the link in the description and you can work with us one-on-one. And I say this from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of FittDesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.